Hi, here we are again, another US election. And everybody says this is the most dramatic election, America will never be the same again, etc., etc. And certainly with Trump there, it shocks me that he is so popular. It could well be a structural change if he wins, and possibly even if he loses. So, the issue is what will happen to financial markets if Trump wins. First look at that, then we look at if Trump loses. Well, Trump is the epitome of erraticness, uncertainty. You would think that the very fact that he's so close to being president would be creating a lot of volatility in markets. This on top of the huge problems in the Middle East, Ukraine, etc., etc. I'm a little surprised that markets are relatively calm, right? Now, as we all know, Trump has talked about putting tariffs on everybody, on China and a lot of other people, on immigrants, throw out all the immigrants, tax cuts, So all of the things that he's talking about, I don't know if he really understands them or whether he will be able to implement them, but they will all lead to higher prices in the US. Tariffs are going to increase costs for people locally. You throw out immigrants, over time that's going to increase inflation. Cut taxes, the budget deficit will continue, and incidentally, after a long time, more and more people are getting really worried about the US deficit. So it would seem that if inflation is going to remain high, US interest rates are not going to come down as fast as people expected. There was some recent data which showed that growth is getting a little wobbly, but if inflation is high, the Fed cannot cut rates. Now, if inflation stays higher for longer, as we used to say, and rates stay high, one day or another, equities will collapse, right? So, to my mind, the big risk of Trump coming in for markets is a sharp fall in equities, and multiply that by a lot of his sort of mad ways, it could lead to something like a global recession, right? But let's look at it the other way. What if Trump loses? Oddly enough, the situation will be pretty bad too. Because Harris is also talking a lot about, her whole approach is different, but she's looking at support for housing, childcare, etc., etc., etc. She's going to be fighting with Congress. So I think there's going to be a deficit problem there as well, right? Okay, there may not be the kind of tariff problems, etc., etc. But I feel that if Trump loses, there will be, I won't say blood on the streets, but pretty dramatic situation, because he's not going to let go and his supporters are not going to let go. So there's going to be uncertainty, instability, to a different degree perhaps even more. So again, that suggests that equities are going to be vulnerable. And again, with the deficit high, inflation not coming down anytime soon, the Fed is not going to be able to cut rates. So I think we're looking at the election, whoever wins, as a nodal point, and some serious nervousness in global markets after that. Whether it will happen in a month, or a week, or in 6 months. But there's going to be a lot of uncertainty. So what does that translate to for India, right? Oh wait, one more point. If the interest rates stay high, the dollar, which has been pretty strong, will likely remain strong. Now, I don't think it can continue to strengthen very much, but if interest rates remain high, it certainly will not weaken. So the rupee, which has finally pushed RBI's wall over at 84, and is now 84.7, 84.8, the pressure on the rupee will continue. If there are problems in global equity markets and markets turn more risk on, we could see inflows or outflows increase as they have been. And I think that we will continue to see a lot of pressure on the rupee. RBI has been running what to my mind is I'm not very comfortable with their policy, where they're holding volatility close to zero. I mean, as we know, volatility is a fundamental property of assets. And if the volatility is held to zero, the shock absorber that volatility is will show up somewhere else, right? So I think that, and it's interestingly, there have been some very interesting articles in the press by some very smart people who are also arguing against that RBI needs to change its policy. Now, I don't know if that will happen. I hope it does, because I think it will be better for the country, better for the economy. But if the pressure on global markets increases after the US election, as I said, likely irrespective of who wins, I think RBI will be compelled to make a change. So, good luck to all of us, and of course, happy Diwali.